Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. I'm blessed to continue with the study of Surah Al-Kahfi. Let's start off with our intentions for seeking knowledge and teaching. I intend to seek knowledge and to teach, to benefit myself and to benefit others, to remind myself and to remind others, to profit myself and to profit others, to urge adherence to the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to invite to guidance and to guide to that which is good, seeking the face of Allah, His pleasure, His closeness, and His reward, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's continue on with our Fatiha. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Let's go on with our dua. اللهم نور بالقرآن بصري واشرح به صدري وأطلق به لساني واستعمل به بدني وقوي به جناني وأسرع به فحمي بحولك وقوتك فإنه لا حول ولا قوة إلا بك يا أرحم الراحمين. والصلاة على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. بفضل سبحانك ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. آمين آمين يا الله. الحمد لله الحمد لله الحمد لله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Right, Surah Kahfi, we did Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, we did verses 11 to 16 in the last lesson. Allah prevented them from hearing in the cave for a number of years. So we saw them making the du'as, we saw them being positive, right? And then in the cave, they couldn't hear at all, right? Because they are in deep sleep. Then he raised them up that we might know which of the two was best able to compute the time they remain. Right, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala use the word we, and we understand that of course he knows who is it, but it's to show people, right, who can actually know the times, right, in which they sleep, how long they actually slept. Allah related to Rasulullah their story with the truth, and lots of stories are abound out there about these people, the sleepers of the cave, the companions of the cave, and he calls them the companions of the cave. He doesn't call them the sleepers of the cave, right? They call it the sleepers of Ephesus, something like that, I think. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is told that now the truth is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were youths who believe in their Rabb, and he increased them in guidance. So because of their strong belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah guided them further. Allah strengthened their hearts with patience. Then they stood up and said, our Rabb is the Rabb of the heavens and the earth. We will not call any God besides him. So when the heart is strong, they have patience, right? This is important to have patience, but patience comes with strength. Therefore, to be able to hold your emotions over a lot of nonsense out there, right, takes a lot of strength of the heart. And Allah is the one who strengthens hearts. So if you are able to do that, we should be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then they stood up for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they were brave enough to say that their Rabb is the Rabb of the heavens and the earth, and they will not call any God besides him. That indeed we would have said a terrible thing. So they stood up, they announced their beliefs and denounced the beliefs in other God. And because they know that that belief in other gods, to give partners to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is a terrible thing indeed. They said that the people have taken gods beside him. Why do they not produce any clear authority in their support? So if they had, fine enough, they have taken gods, they have given partners to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Well, if they have done that, then they should bring up proof to support what they are doing. Who is then more unjust than he who forges a lie against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they realize that it's terrible to give partners to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is a lie, definite lie, and it is terrible. It's a terrible injustice to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we are not honoring Allah enough by saying that He needs partners. So that is really a great injustice against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and against ourselves for not allowing ourselves to believe in one God. And when you withdraw from them and what they worship except Allah, take refuge in the cave, your Rabb will extend His mercy and provide for you a right course in your affair. So this, we understand, was the comment that was a conversation, or was a statement made by one of them who was one of the young men, right? And tell them that when you withdraw from them, that means you leave these people and what they worship, means you denounce it, then we must go to the cave, right? You must go to the cave, we must hide ourselves in the cave, and Allah will extend His mercy. So they believe in what they believe that their dua will be accepted, because they ask Allah to give them mercy, to extend His mercy, and also to provide them a right course in their affair. That means to give them directions on how to move in their affair. I will continue. وَتَرَى الشَّمْسَ إِذَا طَلَعَتْ تَزَاوَرُ عَنْ كَهْفِهِمْ وَتَرَى, and you see, and this is Ra'aya is the root word here, or the alif and the ya are weak letters, they disappear, only Ra is left, the Ta is you. So Ta is in front, so this is fi'il mudari, present, future tense. Wa is N. وَتَرَى, and you see the sun, Shamsa. So the sun is being seen, so the sun is in its nasab state with a fatha there. وَتَرَى الشَّمْسَ, it's an object. إِذَا, when طَلَعَتْ, it rose. Right? طَلَعَ al-badrun, the full moon has risen. Right? But this one is with ta at the end to show it's female, because it refers to the sun. The sun rose. إِذَا طَلَعَتْ tazawaru, the ta refers to the sun. Sun is female again. You can see ta sometimes it's female, sometimes it is a you here. So you just have to be aware. And that is why learning Arabic is good, and to read the Quran with understanding is really good for the minds, for the brain, because you're always engaged with with thinking of the particular letter that is being used. Continuous thinking helps your brain to stay alert. Inshallah, you will not become senile in our old age. Tazawaru, it inclines. So this one we know is plural, is fi'il mudari, and it is a rafa state because it's a dhamma. Right? Tazawaru, it incline. An kahfihim, from their cave. An is from, kahf is cave, him is their, from their cave. Now Allah refers to the cave as their cave, right? وَتَرَى الشَّمْسَ إِذَا طَلَعَتْ تَزَاوَرُ عَنْ كَهْفِهِمْ ذَاتَ الْيَمِينِ. ذَاتَ الْيَمِينِ. That is actually possessing the right. That actually comes from the word dhu, female is that. Dhul Qarnayn, the one that possessed two horns, is called Dhul Qarnayn. But this one is that al-yamin, to the right. The yamin is right. To the right, it's easier for us to actually explain to the right rather than possessing the right. Wa idha, and when. Wa is and. Idha is when. Gharabat. Gharabat, root word is gharaba. Gharaba is to set. Okay? Maghrib. Maghrib is to Maghrib comes from the word gharaba. Mim, Agha, and Ra. A place where it's set is called Maghrib. It's the east. Maghrib actually is. All right. Gharabat, it's set. Ta referring to the sun. Taqriduhum qaradan. Qarada is to turn. Taqriduhum, it turned from them. Whom is them? It turned from them. That shimal, to the left. That is again mentioned just now. Right, having a position of the left, to the left. Right, so it's easier for us to translate here. So that we can see is huruf jar, that is why shimali is in a jar state with a kasra there. Okay? That shimal, it says taqriduhum is fi'l mudari rafa. So we are slowly looking into grammar a little bit here and there just to understand some grammatical items. وترى الشمس إذا طلعت تزاور عن كهفهم ذات اليمين وإذا غربت تعرضهم ذات الشمال. وهم, and they في فجوة, في is in فجوة, open space, في فجوة, again huruf jar, في فجوة jar state, minhu, of it, right, minhu, of it, ذلك, that, the it here referring to the kahf, ذلك, that, min ayatillah, of the signs of Allah. Now we see here is an of structure. Ayat is plural, right? And it's in this jar state. Min, alif, ta is a jar state here, right? Ayat can be jar or nasab. So same, exactly, nasab and jar, same structure, but we will look at the situation here. Min is sort of jar. So this is a jar state. And it's jar state, and Allah also jar because this is an of structure. And in the of structure, the first word doesn't have tanwin or an al, but it takes the al of Allah here, yeah? Of the signs of Allah. Min ayatillah. Wahum fi fajwatim minhu dhalika min ayatillah. Man yahdi, man is whoever, yahdi, he guides. All right, yeah, and the hidayah here, the ya has disappeared here. Man yahdi, whomever he guides. Whoever guides Allah. Allah is the one who guides. So this yahdi refers to Allah, right? Allah is not rafa here. So whoever guides Allah, actually, because in Arabic we know we have the fa'il first and then the fa'il, the actor. Right? This is the action, then the actor. So the action comes first. Man yahdillahu, who guides Allah, fahuwa, then he, muhtad. All right, here we see the guided one. You see, we have hadaya here. The mim represents a person, and there's a ta here. The ta tells us that the ta indicates that there is a reflection there, right? This is the ifta'ala structure, and it tells us that people who are guided, they receive the guidance and they put in effort to accept the guidance. So this one tells us, this word in itself tells us that there is a free will here, right? There is out of free will, you accept the guidance and you follow the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَهُمْ فِي فَجْوَةٍ مِّنْهُ ذَلِكَ مِنْ آيَاتِ اللَّهِ مَنْ يَهْدِ اللَّهُ فَهُوَ الْمُهْتَدِ. وَمَنْ يُضْلِلْ, وَمَنْ, and whoever, yudlil, he leaves to stray. Okay, this is very important. He leaves to stray. Some translations say he causes to stray. And that becomes a problem or an issue with some people. They say that Allah is the one who caused them to stray. So it's a matter of, the translation has caused people to sort of say that Allah has made it that way that is, but you see, when leaves to stray, that means you don't want to accept the guidance, so that's it, you go your way. That's what it is. But to cause to stray would be as if Allah purposely make them stray, which is not true, right? Allah does not cause people to stray. People stray because of their inability, of their desire. They're not, because they are not able to accept the guidance, since the guidance usually would conflict with their desires. وَمَنْ يُضْلِلْ, right? So whoever he leaves to stray, the ya is referring to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is fi'il mudari, and this is jazam because this is conditional. وَمَنْ يُضْلِلْ فَلَنْ, then never tajida, you find, where is wajada? Lan is huruf nasab, so that is why you see the dal having a fatha here. The ta, walan, falan, then never it finds for him, waliyam murshida, for him, lahu, waliyan, friend, murshida, a guiding friend. All right, now here, the ta can be an it. Here we see the translation is an you. Therefore, you, then we look at how it is being translated. Okay, the ta, as mentioned, can be a you or it can be an it. Right? You find, because if you put you find here, who is the you referring to? Right? It could be Allah, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because Allah is actually talking to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? If it, then what it where does it refers to? So when we look at the translation here, right, you might see the sun when it rose decline from their cave towards the right hand, and when it set, leaves them behind on the left, while they were in a wide space thereof. This is the signs of Allah. Whomever Allah guides, he is the rightly guided one. And whomever he causes to stray, where as mentioned, it shouldn't be causes, but he leaves to stray. We'll see different translation giving different meanings, different translations to it. And the translators, and you shall not find for him a friend to lead aright. So this one goes back not about those people, but about talking to Rasulullah SAW, that if Allah has leave them to stray, then he cannot find for him a friend to lead aright. And so it's not, he cannot find for him a friend to lead aright. All right, now let's continue with the tafsir. Watara shamsa, and you see the sun, إذا طلعت, when it rose, tazawaru, it inclined, an kahfihim, from their cave towards the right, that al-yamin, the position of the cave. This indicates that the entrance to the cave is north. All right, the sun is on its right, right, on its right, when it seems the east is on the right. So if east is on the right, then the west is on the left, right? And then front is north, right? So that means the cave is facing north. Because Allah tells us that when the sun was rising, sunlight entered the cave and the shade decreased towards the right. So it inclined towards the right. You can also almost visualize the sun. No one actually sees the sun there, but Allah wants you to imagine it. Then you have the word tazawaru, means to sidestep or curve, to circumvent. In other words, when the light streams into the cave, it bends. The light does not enter straight into the cave, but its light is reflected off the rocks. So it's saying that the light, that is not the sun, that means the cave is not facing east. If the cave is facing east, then the sun goes right into the cave. Right? The sunlight goes right into the cave. But here it is saying that the sunlight turns around, right, circumvent, curve, right? It doesn't really enter the cave directly. That's what it means. Watara shamsa, and you see the sun, when it rises, it curves from the cave towards its left. All right, so now here Allah is giving us, as Allah mentioned, that Allah is going to tell the story of the people of the cave, the companions of the cave in truth. Now, this kind of description is not available by anyone, because they knew, eventually they knew where the cave was, but to give such a clear description of how the situation was with them in the cave, right, is only Allah's way. And of course, when the Arabs are concerned, the way of describing is really, really special. وَتَرَى الشَّمْسَ إِذَا طَلَعَتْ تَزَاوَرُ عَنْ كَهْفِهِمْ ذَاتَ الْيَمِينِ. Every time the sun rises on the horizon, its rays decline until there is nothing left in such a place when it reaches its zenith. It means in the hot sun, zenith means right at mid-noon, midday, right? The sunlight is not strong. Okay. وَإِذَا غَرَبَتْ تَقْرِضُهُمْ ذَاتَ الشِّمَالِ. And when it sets, right, it moves away to the left. It entered their cave from the left of its entrance, which means from the west. So that's when it's setting. When it's setting, the light enters the cave from the left of its entrance, which means to the west. So if the entrance of the cave face east, nothing would have entered it when the sun sets. So if it faces east, the sun will be directly into the cave when it rises, but when it's set, nothing would enter the cave because it's behind the cave. All right. So, and if it faces the direction of the Qibla in the south, nothing would have entered it at the time of sunrise or sunset, and the shadows would have leaned neither to the right nor the left. So that is why they come to the conclusion that it is facing the north. If it had faced west, nothing would have entered it at the time of sunrise, so until after the sun had passed its zenith, and would have stayed until sunset. This supports what has been described. To Allah is a praise and a thanks. All right, now we see here Allah giving us a very, very detailed description on the positions of the sun and the sunlight with respect to the cave. Right? We do recall another story of a man who was made to die for 100 years, right? As he was walking across a town which was completely devastated to the ground, and he wondered in his heart, how would Allah raise these people up again? And he was made to sleep. But he was just made to sleep, and that's it. And when he woke up, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually made him realize that he actually slept for 100 years. But in this case, Allah is very precise in describing the position of the sun. So in itself, we know that and Allah in this very verse mentioned that there is a sign here. We are to learn lessons from what Allah describes. So, because the first lesson that we as human beings who can look and understand and study the situation is that the cave is facing north. All right. Ibn Abbas, Mujahid, and Qatada said that turning away from them means that it would shine on them and then leave them. They'll get a little bit of light and then they will not get light at all. Right. It is clear to anyone who thinks about the matter and has some knowledge of astronomy and the paths of the sun, moon, and stars. Right. So this is clear to anyone who thinks about the matter and has some. So you need to have knowledge to realize that the sun, the cave is actually facing north. وَهُمْ فِي فَجْوَةٍ مِّنْ, and they in the midst of it. The it refers to the cave. Fajwa is a very, very big space. And they in the midst or in the space of it. All right. The sun entered the cave without touching them, because if it had touched them, it would have burnt their bodies and clothes. Imagine yourself in a cave. You are, very hot. Right? If the sun directly shines at you, you'll be very, very hot. So it might have a bad effect on them. They might get sunburns if it's going to be for 300 years. And we know it's going to be 300 years, right? It was 300 plus years, right, of the sun shining at you. That will not be a good thing. So we see here that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has even protected them while they were in a state of sleeping. Fajwa, a valley or any small opening between two mountains. The space they slept in was spacious. Allah tells us that this cave is a very spacious cave where they all slept comfortably in. The cave was roomy with adequate light and ventilation. They were comfortable. These were the mercies of Allah, as mentioned, right? They asked for Allah's mercy. They sought the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they believe that Allah will have mercy on them. And here Allah showed us how He had mercy on them. ذَلِكَ مِنْ آيَاتِ اللَّهِ, that is all the ayahs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah tells us these are His signs for us to ponder over. All signs given by Allah are for us to ponder over, to realize the great might and powers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are signs on how He guided them to this cave. He kept them alive, and the sun and the wind entered the cave, preserving their bodies. Allah kept them alive, and Allah ensured that the environment is good for them to stay on living in the cave. Allah has told us this, and He wants us to understand it and ponder its meaning. But He did not tell us the location of this cave, because there is no benefit for us in knowing that, right? He didn't say exactly where the cave is. In fact, there are two places claimed to be the cave of the companions of the cave. One is in Turkey, and another one that I went to was in Jordan. It was in Jordan, in Amman. It's a little bit out of Amman. Wallahu alam bisawab. So that's not important. What is important is to know that Allah did have mercy. Allah showed us the mercies that Allah had on them. If there was any spiritual or religious interest that could be served by our knowing that, Allah and His Messenger would have taught us about it, as Rasulullah SAW has said. That means there is no need for us to know exactly where the cave was. if it's important for us to know where the cave was, then Rasulullah would have told us, Allah would have told us in the story, right? Sorry. I've not left anything that will bring you closer to paradise and keep you away from hell, but I've certainly taught you about it. Rasulullah has said that nothing, he has not left anything that will bring you closer to heaven, paradise, and keep you away from hell, but I've certainly taught you about it. And so everything is taught by Rasulullah. Now, some people actually use this to confront or to find faults with people who seem to them to add on to the religion, like for example, the Maulids, right, and the Tahlils and the Talqins and whatever that people do, right? But it's very important for us to, we are lay persons now. We don't really know every thing of the hadith. If there are ulama who did all these things, then they must have their basis on doing all these things. Okay, one thing that we are aware of, maybe most of us are aware of this hadith in which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right, has told us that gatherings of remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Allah has said that if we remember Allah in a gathering, Allah will remember us in a greater gathering. Right? So what some scholars have seen that is that they say where going to heaven is concerned, Rasulullah has given indications, right? It doesn't mean that we must follow exactly what Rasulullah did. If there is nothing said about what Rasulullah did, then it is considered as bid'ah, because they don't consider this as bid'ah. Because when they are concerned, for example, when people out in Singapore, especially in Singapore and Malaysia, after our prayers or salat, Imam would recite the dua and everybody will make together the zikrs, the 3 tasbihs and everything. And some people are against that because they say Rasulullah never did that during his time, right? But Rasulullah did tell us that when we sit down together to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, the angels, right, will surround us. These are guidance, this is a guidance on earth, Jannah on earth, and Allah will praise us in a bigger assembly. So they imply, so there is an implication there. But at the same time, Rasulullah said, whatever I forbid, do not do. And whatever I encourage you or I taught you to do, then do as much as you can. So forbid, for sure, don't do. He never forbid anyone from coming together to zikir. He never forbid anyone. During his time, there were people who were sitting together to do zikir, and he didn't forbid them. Right? So he didn't forbid them. So what is important that he did not forbid them. And whatever he taught, he said, do as much as he can. What he meant is, of course, the wajib must do, but the sunnah, not everybody can do all the sunnahs that he has taught us. And how many of us can actually recite all the zikrs that he taught every morning and every evening, or even all the surahs that are supposed to be recited before we sleep? Daily surahs is a lot, and not all of us have that capacity to do it. If we do, alhamdulillah, Allah has blessed us with that ability and time, inshallah. Right, so that is what it is. All right, we were talking about ayahs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, position of the cave. Then Allah says, مَن يَهْدِ فَهُوَ الْمُهْتَدِ. Whomever Allah guides, then he is the one that is guided. Now, this is a muhtad here. We say this is an ism. See the al there, it's an ism. Right? Then he is the one guided. Man yahdillah, then he is the one that is guided. Fahual muhtad. Right. Being a muhtad, I've mentioned, right, there is a ta there, which means in Arabic that there is you are accepting accepting guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and putting an effort to be guided. Now the muhtad here is an ism. It shows that he's always continuously in a state of guidance. That means he accepts the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So whoever Allah guides, so we must understand that guidance comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the word hidayah here also has the same root word as hadiyah, a gift. So we should understand that in being one guided, we are blessed with a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hence, we should thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for blessing us with this guidance. Guidance literally is a sense that they were guided to the cave and guided to sleep in that particular location where the sun does not hit them directly. Well, this is the opinion of a scholar in reference to them, all right, not in a general sense, right? They are the ones that are guided. They asked to be guided, and Allah guided them, right, to this very particular cave, which has been, which would preserve their body in the best of ways. It also refers to guidance in faith. So it could be a general thing that whoever Allah guides. So these are people, examples of people who had the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah blesses them with lots of mercies, right, in the state that they were in the cave. And whoever he leaves to stray, then not you find for him a rightly guiding friend, So once you deny the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah leaves you to stray. And this is, of course, if we talk as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because there is reference to him here, right? In the stories, Allah tells you the story in truth. So it is that conversation with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You yourself cannot guide them because they chose to be not to be guided. They chose to go astray, and Allah leaves them to stray. Once Allah have left you to stray, no one, you cannot find anyone. It's not that you cannot guide him. You can't even find anyone for him. Lahu is emphasized. Especially for him, you can't find anyone at all to be a guiding friend because he has chosen to go astray. Keeping them alive and sleeping for such a long time is a sign of Allah's power and resourcefulness. But only people with the right attitude attain guidance from such signs. So here we are talking about their story. Right? So there's a lot of opinions concerning the verse here, right? So Allah asks us to reflect on their story and understand that these are people who accept guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Unlike those people who are out there who have no guidance, right? They are left without any guide. No one can get those who cannot think beyond their personal physical perceptions and experiences. Right? A number of people, human beings, through their indoctrination, through their learnings, through their exposure to various ideas and concepts, and also their own desires and caprice, right, causes them not to be accepting the guidance. So they go astray. And no matter what we try to do, we cannot find Rasul. Here, of course, reference to Rasulullah. So you try your very best to convince them with all the reasons to convince, right? All the logical explanations and everything. We cannot find Allah. That's it. They are gone. They cannot accept ways of moving along the right path. There is a certain divine law that determines which people may receive Allah's guidance and which are left in error. So Allah knows best the conditions of people, and Allah will decide on them. When a person looks at Allah's signs and accepts what they indicate, that person finds Allah's guidance in accordance with His law. So He saw the people who are guided, right? Many people have converted, from not knowing anything, or from even having taking gods other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to states where they just left everything and be a true slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Once they are convinced that Allah is God, right, then they know that He is their creator, He is His creator, and so he believes that the rules and regulations that are made by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is for our good, because he believes in the mercies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we can see that these people of the cave, the companions of the cave, they had faith in Allah and they believe Allah will have mercy on them. So we should believe that Allah will have mercy on us and protect us from disobedience to Him. right? And also not only peace, but also a right direction. So Allah has directed them, right, in this case, to the cave to sleep. They asked for direction. They didn't expect to sleep in the cave. They went to the cave to hide, most probably from this horrible king who was all out to kill them because they denounced the religion of the people. Fahuwal muhtad. Hence, he is muhtad. Right? Then he is the guided one. Right? And then he is the guided one. So this one is an ism. It shows it's powerful, strong, and is forever in guidance. So whoever turns his back on these signs and refuses to understand the message they impart is bound, according to Allah's law, to go astray. Hence, he is left in error and have none to guide him. So no one can able to guide him. وَتَحْسَبُهُمْ. The ta is you, again, it might be referring to Rasulullah, but it might refer to anyone, right, who might come across these people in the cave. Hasaba is to figure out. And it could be guess, it could be think, right? وَتَحْسَبُهُمْ. And you would think them as them. You would think they or them. Think, of course, you would think about them. I cannot say they. All right, hasaba, tahasabuhum is fi'il mudari, present, future, and rafa. Ayqadan, the word ayqadan means awake. We saw the word in our list of words. Wahum, while they, ruqud, sleeping. All right, so ruqud, they were sleeping. وَتَحْسَبُهُمْ أَيْقَاظًا وَهُمْ رُقُودٌ, while they were sleeping. So you think of them as awake. So this is nasab, but a different sentence says that while they are awake, they are sleeping. So you think of them as awake while they are sleeping. وَتُقَلِّبُهُمْ, right? Qalaba is to turn. وَنُقَلِّبُهُمْ, and we turn them. Present, future tense, rafa. Right? Qallaba is to if you say qallibu, fa'ala, structure to cause. Right? So we cause them to turn. Here we, of course, referring to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That al-yamin, to the right. We have this word that just now. Yamin is right, to the right. Wa that al-shimal, and to the left. We turn to the right and turn to the left. وَتَحْسَبُهُمْ أَيْقَاظًا وَهُمْ رُقُودٌ وَنُقَلِّبُهُمْ ذَاتَ الْيَمِينِ وَذَاتَ الشِّمَالِ وَكَلْبُهُمْ. All right, let's just look a little bit of mention this. The word qalbun, qalbun is the heart. Qalbun. So the pronunciation is very important. Qalbun. Now the heart is called qalbun. The word qalaba is also part of the root word of the heart. That is why we have Ya Muqallibal Qulub, Thabbit Qulubana, Ya Muqallibal Qulub. See the same word, Qalaba and Qulub, right? Same root word, Qalaba and Qulub. In the Quran, there's only about 2,000 root words. If you, that's why going through this again and again, inshallah, you would know the words in the Quran and would understand them. And most of the Quran, inshallah. Right. So the word Qalaba is to turn. The word Qalbun also turn. We have a few words for the heart. In the qalbun is the heart that turns, right? I mean, sometimes have faith, sometimes don't have faith, sometimes faith lesser, sometimes faith more. So qalbun, that's why it's called qalbun. If you call a fu'ad, is also heart. If you translate the Quran, fu'ad is also heart. But fu'ad is the heart of the emotional heart. So it's a different kind of reference to the heart. So the Arabs have different words for different parts of the heart. Of course, sudur is not the heart. Sudur is the chest in itself, where the heart is contained. And when Allah uses the word sudur, right, it's specific. There's specific reasons for using that. So it's good, inshallah, as we learn Arabic, we get more and more knowledge, inshallah. And we will be astounded at the ways of the words that are being used by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَنُقَلِّبُهُمْ ذَاتَ الْيَمِينِ وَذَاتَ الشِّمَالِ. And then we have the kalbun. So the kalbun, if you pronounce it, the heart as qalbu, a kalbu is, you don't pronounce the qa in itself, and you say kalbu, it becomes a dog, right? But kalbun is the heart. So be very careful in how you pronounce. At least, even if your tajweed is not really very good, but at least put in effort, right, to pronounce the letters carefully, properly. And it's not impossible, it takes time, but lots of du'as again, and also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Seek Allah's help. As Allah said in the Quran is made easy. Of course, Allah is aware that there are lots of people out there from different races whose tongue might not be able to pronounce a lot of things. But as we see now, right, we are exposed to a lot of people who are converts, like Hamza Yusuf and Sheikh Hakim Murad, Yahya Roders. All of these people, they actually learn to recite the Quran in beautiful, really beautifully. And in fact, my daughter, she says that when they went to Syria, quite a number of the Singaporeans actually, when they went to Syria or to Yemen, right, they were actually corrected on the way they pronounce some of the letters. So we should be learning our letters, inshallah, carefully, and say it carefully. وَكَلْبُهُمْ, and their dog, بَاسِطٌ, one who stretches. So this is the dog. The dog is described as a creature that stretches. ذِرَاعَيْهِ, its forelegs. ذِرَاعَيْهِ, he is it. ذِرَاعَ, right, forelegs. ذِرَاعَيْهِ is forelegs. Bil-wasid, at the entrance. Bil-wasid, at the entrance. لَوْ طَلَعْتَ, law is if, like kalau, if. Tala'ta, from the tala'a, to rise, actually, to look in and to see things, right? Ta, you viewed, alayhim, on them, all right? So they can see the word is a very different word is used here. That means you need to peer at them, alayhim. La wallaita, la is lam of emphasis, definitely. Walla is to turn, right? What you turned, definitely you turned. Let's put the word definitely here. Or surely or definitely. Surely you turn from them. Tawallaita, minhum, from them. Surely you turn from them, firaran, in flight. Firaran, farara is to fly, to run fast. Minhum, from them, firara. Wa kalbuhum basitun dira'aihi bil wasid. Lawil طلعت عليهم لوليت منهم فرارا ولا ملئت ولا, and surely, wa is and, lam is surely, definitely. Mulita, mala'a means to fill up, and the ta is used, so of course it's fi'il maldi, past tense. Wala mulita, and surely you would be filled. All right, mala'a actually another word, same meaning as mala'a, are the chiefs. Some, according to some translators, they say mala'a are chiefs. Mala'a also means fill, because the chiefs fill the courts of the king. Subhanallah. Such things helps us to remember things, actually, meanings of words also. Wala mulita, and surely you would be filled, minhum, of them, ru'ba, or of fright. All right, fright or looking at them. All right, ru'ba is of course ism. And you might think them awake while they was asleep, and we turned them about to the right and to the left, while their dog, outstretching its paws at the entrance. If you looked at them, you would certainly turn back from them in flight, and you would certainly be filled with awe because of them. Awe of them. All right. So Allah says, Allah is telling us, because here referring to Rasulullah in the first instance, that you would, if you would think that they are alive, but actually they are asleep. How can we know a person is alive? Because he is moving right and left, right. Not only that, according to some narrators, their eyes are open. Their eyes are open. And this is very important to preserve the body, that the eyes must be kept open. This describes the arrangements that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made for their protection. This further shows the great mercies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They sleep in the cave. Some of the scholars mentioned that when Allah caused them to sleep, their eyelids did not close, or else disintegration took hold of them. So that is the reason. So their eyes are open and you think they are awake, but they are not awake. their eyes remain open to the air. This will be better for the sake of preservation. So Allah puts all this in place, whereas Allah doesn't need to. And Allah explains to people what is happening here at their state so that the people start understanding the importance of how to keep people alive while in a comatose. When they are in coma, it's very important to them left and right, or else they would have bad sores, right? And it seems that the eyes must be open so that they do not disintegrate. Maybe the movement, the and everything is important. Sorry. Now then we turn them on the right and we turn them on the left, right? Allah explains what He did to them so that they keep alive. Ibn Abbas said, if they did not turn over, the earth could have consumed them, right? So that means if you are left on one side only, then the sores and everything, they're still alive. I remember they're still alive. Although they are made to sleep, right? They cannot hear anything, but they are still alive because their body is still intact. They are not dead. Their bodies are turning sides, frequently giving an impression that they are only resting, not sleeping. They will turn this side and that side for that the blood of their bodies might not concentrate in one point of the body. And the pressure and the height which were on those muscles that were on the ground for a long time would not affect on the body harmfully. So we do understand that so that it will not sore. You know, when you sleep on one side all the time, be very sore. That is why when we are looking after bedridden people, bedridden patients, we must turn them left and right, so that they do not get their bed sores. وَنُقَلِّبُهُمْ ذَاتَ الْيَمِينِ وَذَاتَ الشِّمَالِ وَكَلْبُهُمْ بَاسِطٌ ذِرَاعَيْهِ بِالْوَصِدِ. And Allah mentions a dog, and the dog, right, was there. He was outstretched, right, his four legs at the entrance. The dog was at the entrance. So some people actually, this is a problem with little knowledge, and they try to make fatwas from the Quranic verses. You see, hey, these people, they are religious people, they got dogs, so nothing wrong with having a dog. Allah specifically says the dog, their dog, Allah even says their dog, right? It is outstretched. In a state of outstretched. It is one outstretched. That is, the dog is in a state of outstretched all the time. And his forehead is forward. So the dog has a different position now, right? The dog is lying right at the entrance, right? And it's straight. His forelegs are outstretched. The blessing they enjoyed extended to their dog. So the sleep that overtook them overtook him too. This is the benefit of accompanying good people, and so this dog attained fame and stature. This is again, right, opinions of the scholars right here. Right, if you look at it, you see the dog, and the dog also slept with them all the way. When they were heading to the cave, a dog went along with them. They tried to show him away, but he came along and sat in front of the cave as if he was going to jump on anyone who approaches the cave. So somehow Allah put a dog there to look after the people. And the dog was sleeping also. Very different position. This also kept wild animals away from the cave. So this is one of another means in which Allah protected the people of the cave, with a dog lying at the entrance of the cave. It says that the cave is a very low cave, right? And then some caves are like that. They're low caves, and then you enter through like a tunnel first, and then you will get into a big open space. And just like the cave that Rasulullah went in when he was escaped. When he was migrating to Medina, a Thawr cave. Surely, if you are to look on at them, right? For surely you would turn in fright. Somehow their condition doesn't allow you to want to look at them. That's what Allah is telling us. Right? The state is in a certain state that we would be frightened when we see them, and we run away from them. That's what Allah is telling us. Let's see what our tafsir says. The whole setup was such that anyone passing by the cave would be terrified and run away, considering them a band of dangerous people. Well, so this is one opinion, right? Fear because, Allah, they look, they seem to be awake, right? They are not, they don't seem very, very friendly, maybe, I don't know, to call them, to think that they are a band of dangerous people would be, they don't look good, most probably. Wallahu alam bisawab. And surely you would be filled of them, you'd be filled of fear of them, awe of them, what is this? It causes you to be in running away from them. That means it's not really, Allah has protected them so much so that even if you chance to look at them, you would not disturb them. In fact, you would run away from them. This exceptional case perhaps had been for the sake that harmful animals would not approach them, or for the sake that their view might become so dreadful that none would dare approach them, in a manner that this circumstance would work as a protective shield for them. So Allah is telling us that their state is not a beautiful state to be in, rather a frightening state to be in, right? And it was necessary for them to be in that state out of the mercies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you see people in coma, they don't really look very good actually, right? And Wallahu alam. Since they look frightening, Wallahu alam. All right. Vegetative state. If we meditate on this story, we'll find it similar to the scientific medical phenomena in the way the people of the cave slept and the way they were turned from left to right, to left side to the right side. Scientists had made a brain scan for the patients that are in the vegetative state, said that the results of the scan showed that the activity of their brain is similar to that of a normal one, right? You know what's a person in a vegetative state? That means they are just in a coma, right? They're not supposed to eat and drink whatever, but somehow human beings, doctors, the medical profession, right, would still try to put in some chemicals in their body to make them alive, right? And if you leave them as in that state, we don't know how long they might go on living. These patients look very normal and you would think they are awake. Here we remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying that the people of the cave, and you would have thought them awake while they were asleep. So in describing the turning from right to the left side, which is a normal reaction that the sleeper would respond to, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and we turn them on the right and on the left side. So that means that is Allah making them turning right and left, right? Maybe they might not, if they are sleeping so soundly, they might not turn left and right. So from here, we conclude the Quran is very logical in describing the story, but the miracle here is that these young men slept for a very long time, 309 years without food or water, right? Human beings would not allow that to be the state of a person who is in a vegetative state. They would, as mentioned, they would put in chemicals to make the persons alive, right? In that vegetative state. But here, they don't eat, they don't drink, 309 years. Just that positioning is enough for them. So Allah sustains, right, them. It shows the powers of Allah in sustaining life, right, even without food. This is a divine miracle that we believers should be sure of. Medically speaking, sleeping of long years is something completely normal. But of course, you can sleep, but they don't see. You need to have food, most probably, or else you'll just be scheming, I suppose. وَكَذَلِكَ بَعَثْنَاهُمْ لِيَتَسَاءَلُوا بَيْنَهُمْ. And like that. وَكَذَلِكَ. And like that. بَعَثْنَاهُمْ. We raise them. Ba'atha is to raise. Na is we. Hum is them. We raise them. لِيَتَسَاءَلُوا. Li is so that. Root word is sa'ala. Sa'ala is to so'al or to question. But the ta here tells us they are questioning each other. The ya and the waw alif tells us it's a they. Right? The li is huruf nasab. So that is why yatasa'alu, which is mudari, is in its nasab state. Liyatasa'alu bainahum, between them. Qala, said. A speaker, qailun. So a speaker, someone among them spoke up, most probably the one who was leading, and there was a leader. We can see from the first part when they went off to the cave. Minhum, among them, kam labithtum, kam, how long? Labatha is state. Normally the translation would use the word tarid. Tarid means to be left in that state. Kam labithtum. How long be you tarry? Not sorry. Not there. It's a tum here. You. Sometimes when I type, I didn't notice. So when you talk, when you notice. You stayed in the cave. Right, come. That means in that state, they were in that state, right? While they were in that state of, being turned up, turned to the left and right, and, looking quite frightening, right? Allah raised them. That means they were awoken. So that they can ask themselves, between themselves. The speaker said, one speaker said, among them said, how long you all stayed. So it's talking to them. It's a conversation, it's direct speech. How long you stayed. Qalu, they said, labithna, we stayed. So of course we know it's more than 3 because there's when you say qalu, you know it's 3, at least 3. Then there was a questioner. So there's the 4 is definitely there'll be 4, at least 4. Right? So qalu, they said, labithna, labatha is to stay, na is we stayed, past tense, fi'il madi here, yawman, a day, aw ba'da yawm, or part of a day. Ba'da is some, and ba'da is some of a day, or part of a day, much is a better word of saying that. And this is our off structure because ba'da doesn't have ba'dan. There's no tanwin here, and yawmin is in its jar state here. Aw ba'da yawm, yawman, a day, or part of the day. Normally when it's daytime, we have it in nasab here. Qalu, they said, Rabbukum, your Rabb, a'lamu, knows best, bima, how long, labithum, how long you stayed. Now, so here, some mufassirin who are looking at this says that there are at least 7 people because there was a speaker, he asked, and then some of them said, a group of them said, we stayed a day or part of a day. And another group said, right, Qalu, they said, this, of course, this Qalu can be the same people, but some of them actually saw them as another group who does not agree with the first group who said that is a day or part of a day. So this other group says, Qalu, Rabbukum, your Rabb, a'lamu, knows best, bima, how long, labithum, you stayed. All right, so that's his other group. So if there's 3 and 3, 6 plus 1, 7, at least 7, because Qalu can represent 3 or more. Fab'athu, then they sent. Sorry, then fa is then, ba'atha is to send, they send. So we saw ba'athu as to raise, or is to just bring up someone. Then they send fab'athu ahadakum, one of them. Ahadakum. This is an off structure here. Of course, kum cannot go become kumi because that structure of kum is fixed on its structure. One of you. Then they send one of you. Kum. Sorry, I'm wrong. Again. It's an instruction. Then send one of you. So, you know, they send and send is the same structure. Then send one of you with your coin, right? Waraka. Waraka is, I think, flat, but it's referred to a coin here. And some actually translate it as a silver coin. Let me just put it as a silver coin. They are rich kids. They had dirhams and dirham and dinars. If I'm not wrong, I can't remember which is which. One is gold, one is silver, actually, in itself. With your coin. Biwariqikum. Hadihi, this ilal Madinah. Ila is to, Madinah is in its jar state to the city. Madinah means city. Fab'athu ahadakum biwariqikum hadihi ilal Madinati. Falyanzur. Fal is far, is then, lam is let. Then let him see. So let him see. Right now, dara is to see. Then let him see. And of course, yanzur is mudari in its jazm state because we have a sukun here. Ayyuha, which, azka, purest, but zaki. Zaki is purest, and then you have zakah. Zakah is pure because zakat is to purify your wealth. from money that does not belong to you to be given away to those of the 8 asnafs. Right? Ayyuha azka ta'aman, food, purest food, which purest food he can get. And let him see which purest food. فَابْعَثُوا أَحَدَكُمْ بِوَارِقِكُمْ هَذِهِ إِلَى الْمَدِينَةِ فَلْيَنْظُرْ أَيُّهَا أَزْكَى طَعَامًا فَلْيَأْتِكُمْ. Fa is then, lam is let. Ata is to bring, to give, to come. Right? The ya is he. Let him. Of course, with the let, you're going to put he, must be him. It's English. Let him bring to you with sustenance. Right? Bring you sustenance. Kum is you again there. I'm so sorry. And let him bring you sustenance. With sustenance or with rizki. Birizqin. With rizki from it min who. Who referring to the ta'am that is pure. Wal yatalattaf. Wa is and lam is let. Yatalattaf from the word latif. Latif is subtle, right? Gentle, kind, right? And let him be gentle. And let him be gentle. Wal yatalattaf. Wal yatalattaf, and let him be gentle. Wala yush'iranna, and not he made realize. Right, the noon here is the noon of emphasis. And from what sha'ara is to realize. And not he made realize, wala yush'iranna bikum, of you. He made realize of you all, ahada, anyone. Of course, ahad is one now, but we put it as anyone. فَلْيَأْتِكُمْ بِرِزْقٍ مِّنْهُ وَلْيَطَلَطَّفْ وَلَا يُشْعِرَنَّ بِكُمْ أَحَدًا. All right, and thus did we rouse them that they might question each other. A speaker among them said, "How long have you stayed?" They said, "We have stayed for a day or part of a day." Others said, "Your Lord knows best how long you have stayed. Now send one of you with the silver of yours to the city, and then let him see which of them has purest food. So let him bring your provision from it, and let him behave with gentleness, and by no means make your case known to anyone." All right, so that's a very long verse. وَكَذَلِكَ بَعَثْنَاهُمْ لِيَتَسَاءَلُوا بَيْنَهُمْ. So Allah says, in that way they was left. Allah put them in such a state like that. For you to understand, Ka is referring to Rasulullah SAW, right? That Allah Himself then raised them up so that they can question each other. It was a sleep like death, and its wakefulness was rather similar to resurrection. This means that in like manner that Allah was able to put them in such a long sleep, He returned them to wakefulness again. When they woke up, they start questioning each other. قَالَ قَائِلٌ مِّنْهُمْ كَمْ لَبِثْتُمْ. So the first one to ask, there was a spokesperson. He spoke up and said, among them, he was a spokesman among them, who says, "How long have we stayed?" Right? Somehow, it doesn't feel that short a time. Right? So that is why he asked, "How long did we sleep?" Allah narrated the first question that was asked. قَالُوا. So the first question was, how long did we stay? The reply was, قَالُوا لَبِثْنَا, we stayed يَوْمًا, a day, أَوْ بَعْضَ يَوْمٍ, or part of a day. All right, why did they say a day or part of a day? All right, let's look. They entered the cave at the beginning of the day and they woke up at the end of the day. So if you slept in the morning, you wake up in the evening, the sun is almost has set or is at night, then you would think that it is part of a day. But if it's going to be a day, that means the next day, then you woke up, right? So either you slept in the morning, that's part of a day, or a whole day, where you woke up the next day and it's already evening. قَالُوا رَبُّكُمْ أَعْلَمُ بِمَا لَبِثْتُمْ. So another group says, your Rabb knows well, right, how long we have stayed in the cave. It seems that they were not sure about how long they had slept, and Allah knows best. It's another group. They say it's another group that said that, right? Because from the conversation, we can see that it's actually another group. فَابْعَثُوا أَحَدَكُمْ بِوَرِقِكُمْ هَذِهِ إِلَى الْمَدِينَةِ. But then they realized, okay, listen, then send, all right? So somebody else said, then send, most probably the speaker among them said that, then send one of you with your coin, so they have a silver coin, with a silver coin to the city. Okay. So they were, but then they realized that to determine the length of their sleep is of no consequence. That means it doesn't really help much to know how long, whatever it is, we have already slept, right? We don't know how long we sleep, we have slept. What is important right now is that we want to eat, right? So they leave that point aside, just like a believer should do in any matter of no specific importance. They turn to something more practical. They are hungry and have some money which they carried on them when they left home. So the money was intact with them, and they asked, send one of the people to the town. So that's what they decided to do after they woke up. The first thing is to send someone to the town. Their discussion takes a different turn. Thus, they turn their attention to more pressing matters that they need for food and drink. Therefore, their first suggestion was that they would give the silver coins they had in their possession to one of their own members and send him to the city. A definite article indicates that they were referring to a known city, Al-Madinah, right? Their city which they had left. So the city, so that particular city. They knew their way up, and they know how to come down again to that city. فَلْيَنْظُرْ كَأَيُّهَا أَزْكَى طَعَامًا. Then let him see. Right? So there's only one person to be sent down, and he must look out for the purest food. So we understand that there would be non-pure food, because we know that if they were Christians, we do understand they might be Christians. From the conversations that from the stories that we hear, right? They actually would not eat pork, right? It's haram for them to eat pork. But somehow the religion, Christianity, has spread amongst the Romans, just love to eat pork. And somehow they have allowed it to be eaten. And it's enough. There are few verses in the Bible itself which against eating of pork, and that is why the Seventh Adventists actually do not eat pork. And of course, food which are slaughtered, not slaughtered in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Christians, as we know, Nabi Isa alayhi salam was a Jew, right? From the Bani Israel, and he followed closely the Torah, and the people of Bani Israel all of them used to slaughter their animals, and that is of the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to slaughter animals before we consume them. And somehow along the way, right, human beings have been duped into not slaughtering animals and just killing them off like that, just electrocuting them or just stunning them with a hammer or whatever that causes animals to die. Right? We realize that Allah's way, the way Allah taught us to slaughter animals is the best way, because in our method of slaughtering the animals, the blood is released, right, from the body, and so that prevents stagnation of blood, which might cause diffusion of the uric acid into the flesh, and hence render the flesh bad for consumption. Right? Anyway, these are opinions and studies made by various groups of people. All right, so they are looking at halal food here. Very important. It must be pure. They are pure people. They go for pure food. Yeah? So that is why this is a lesson for all of us also, right? When we want to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we should avoid foods that are not pure, foods that are makruh in itself, because when it says makruh, it's something disliked. So we should avoid disliked things as much as possible. Try to eat of the pure foods that we cook at home, especially when we cook our food and we make our du'as and our zikirs, right, while cooking the food. And inshallah, the food is blessed, right, for us, inshallah. All right, so he goes for a pure food. He was sent to see which of the sellers of that city had the purest food, to bring them some of it. Despite being hungry, they wanted to get only halal food prepared according to the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not any food prepared by disregarding Allah's laws or any polytheistic food, right? The Jews had very strict regulations of food. And in fact, Islam changed that actually. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala perfected that. It was mentioned in the Quran that their dietary restrictions are much more severe than us Muslims because of the fact that they were very, very disobedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anyway, we would expect, as we are aware, Nabi Isa alayhi salam, right, did not change much of they did not come to change the rulings of the Bani Israel, but to improve on the teachings of Nabi Musa alayhi salam by making them more spiritual. That was what it was. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best the conditions of the Bani Israel. At that time, critical moment when Nabi Isa came into the lives of Bani Israel, actually they were in a very, very bad and corrupted state. So much so that they killed Nabi Yahya alayhi salam, they killed Nabi Zakaria alayhi salam. These are all the prophets. There were 3 prophets actually, right, during the time of Nabi Isa alayhi salam, Yahya alayhi salam, Zakaria alayhi salam, and Nabi Isa himself. They wanted to kill him, but Allah did not allow them to kill him when Allah raised him up to heaven. All right, so as mentioned, the people of the Christians should not be much different from the Jews in their dietary restrictions. And we are aware that some of the Jews until now, call them the kosher Jews, very particular about what they eat. Even the fish, they can't actually eat fish which doesn't have visible scales. Of course, we know all fish have scales, but some fish like the mackerel doesn't really seem to have much of a scale on it. Like the stingray also. For us, we can eat any animal from the sea. فَلْيَأْتِكُمْ بِرِزْقٍ مِّنْهُ. So they realize that it is, then he should take the money and buy and bring to them, right, the rizki from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah sustains them of it. He was to bring enough for their provision, right? So that was his instruction to him. Go, take this money, buy food for us, right? Make sure the food is good and then bring it back for us so we can have some rizki from it. We can sustain ourselves with it, the food of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلْيَطَلَطَّفْ. But very importantly, be subtle, be careful, be kind, right? Do not be arrogant, do not be rude, but just do it just slowly so that you're not observable. All right. However, trying to find proper halal food poses its own danger of being exposed. Hence, they wanted to be discreet and cautious in doing so, believing that they are still in their era, right, where in town there are all polytheists out there, right, who doesn't really have much of halal food. And so for them to go around searching for halal food in itself will be a danger. Al-yatalattaf, right? Wal-yatalattaf. In other words, blend in and be cautious of your surroundings and don't bring attention to yourself. So walk nicely, be calm and cool, and don't let people notice you, right? And then subtly try to find where this halal food is. So this word al-yatalattaf, actually, wal-yatalattaf is exactly in the middle of the Quran. Right, this is another observation by the scholars. Most of us will notice this, but it's just interesting to actually highlight this particular word, which is right in the middle of the Quran. Right? This is Juz Surah 18. Although it's Surah 18, it is Juz 15. Right? Juz 15 is the middle of the Quran, right? And then somehow they say this is the exact word right in the middle of the Quran. So it means conciliation and spiritual intelligence accompanied with kindness, which itself is a grace that the middle word of the Holy Quran has spirituality been made up of conciliation, mercy, and kindness. So that is like the essence of our religion, that right in the middle we are brought to this understanding of the need to have, right, conciliation, mercy, and kindness, right, to be part and yet, to look at things in a merciful way. وَلَا يُشْعِرَنَّ بِكُمْ أَحَدًا. And don't, right? And not he, this is a he, not he, make realize, yush'iranna bikum, right? Anyone. So that make sure no one realize of our state, become of you all, right? That means his manners, his way of walking, his way of approaching people, right? He should not make it a means in which, right, the others will realize the presence of the people of the kahf. No one should realize that. They are, however, in an unusual position. They have to be extra careful, right? Because they have ran away from their people and they don't want to be known, and they don't want. I mean, they must be. They are sure they have gone out to search for them because the king wants them to be executed because of their rejection of their beliefs, the beliefs of their people there, and they believing in one God only, right? So they must not allow the people to find them out or discover their hiding place. Well, that would bring disaster, certain disaster. All right. Innahum, surely they, in iyadharu, if they come to know from what zahir. Zahir means made obvious, right? If they come to know, that if that means the word is al-zahara, af'ala is to cause, to be seen. Zahir, you have you ask of zahir and batin. Zahir is what is obvious. So if it becomes obvious to them, let's say they come to know, alaikum, over you, yarjumukum, from the word rajam. Rajam is to stone. Rajam, auzubillahi minasyaitanir rajim, one that is cursed, stone. Yarjumukum, they stone you, kum, or yu'idukum, they force you back. Yu'idukum, right, from the word aida is to bring, to cause you to come back. Yu'idukum fi millatihim, in their religion. Fi is in, millah is religion, not deen but religion. We'll see the difference in millah and deen. Him is there. Walan, and never. Tuflihu, falah is to be successful. You be successful or you succeed. Idhan, then, forever, abada. Innahum, in iyadharu alaykum, yarjumukum, aw yu'idukum fi millatihim, walan tuflihu idhan abada. All right. Innahum, surely they. So if you must not make them realize any one of them, because surely, very sure, if they, right, are to realize, are to know about you all, definitely you will be stoned. So the first thing they know that will happen to them is that they will be stoned by the people. If they find out where they were referring to the followers of Disyanus, who they were afraid might find out where they were, right? So they would be stoned. Here, they would be stoned. So if they know you, or then they would stone you, or they would return you back, force you to go back to their religion. So these young men worship Allah alone, associated no partners with him, or their people were pagans. Hence, they were sure to kill them, or at least to torture them until they renounce their belief in Allah and turn them to the faith of their community. So stone them is torturing them and force them, or kill them, stone them until they die. I mean, there's such punishment where they stone until they die, or they force them to go back to their people. Aw yu'idukum fi millatihim, in their belief. These are the only options that people would consider. They knew their people very well, right? They would not give any chance to these two people. Either you die, right? They will kill them, or if they are forced, right, to go back to their religion. Hence, the young believers re-emphasized their advice to their friend who was going to the city to bring the food. So, although it's clear, but they actually spell it out to him why he must be kind and try to blend in and be subtle in the way he asks for food and things like that, and that he must not make sure that they don't realize who they were, or else they would know about him. Once they know about them, then they would they would kill them, stone them, or even force them to go back to their religion. So we see here beautiful narration from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where Allah actually, right, reenact the speech. This is direct speech, the speech between the people, among the people of the kahf. And that shows the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Millatihim is used, not deen. It's used instead of deen because they saw their religion as part of their national identity. So it is when you see religion as a national identity, you are very adamant about it, or you have this strong affinity towards it because it's nationalism, right? It is not just a way of life, but something which everybody must embrace because it's part of us. Because you left that means you have left your forefathers, what your forefathers believe in. That means you have left your national identity. In other words, leaving that country, the religion was interpreted as being a traitor to your country. So there is confusion made between one's national identity and one's religion. So here, Allah uses precise word so that we understand the reality of the people of the kahf, that they it's a very serious thing to leave the religion then, because it is you are considered as a traitor to the country. So, and of course, most countries, almost actually all countries, right? Whenever there is a traitor in the country, they would be severely punished. Walan tuflihu idhan abada, and never will you be successful idhan abada, right? That means if you are brought back, if you are forced to go back to your religion, then you will not be successful forever, right? You don't believe in Allah, then you will not be successful forever. Indeed, no one who turns back to unbelief in Allah and associate partners with him could ever attain any good results. There is no way he can succeed, as he has incurred the greatest loss through disbelieving in Allah's oneness. They are aware that they will not attain success, be it in this world or the next one. So this is they have a strong faith, they have a strong understanding of their reality, of their position, right, in being people who have ran away from their religion, who have left their religion, right? And if they are forced to go back to their religion, they don't want to go back to their religion, as they have mentioned when they stood up and say that they believe their Rabb is the Rabb of the heavens and the earth, right? And they would not give partners to him, because if they would not call on to anyone other than him, because that would be a very, very terrible thing indeed. So now they are telling, they are saying that if you ever are forced to return to their religion, then definitely you will not be successful. We are given here a panoramic view of the whole thing. And the word falah is being used, interestingly, as success, because falah means putting in effort. No matter how much effort you put in as a polytheist to get close to God, you will never be able to achieve that forever, right? Only hard work is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A view of the whole scene. The youths were apprehensive, unaware of how much time had lapsed or how many years they had remained in their cave. All right, so that was the situation. They didn't know at all what to expect when they go down, when one of them go down. But this is what they understand, right, of the realities of their state, right, and the carefulness that they need, the care and that they need to exercise to ensure that they are not discovered. So they have given enough advice to their friends, to the friend, the one person only, because if too many goes down also, it will attract attention, right? So one person, at least you can blend it and nobody might notice you. All right, let's recite anyway. وَتَرَى الشَّمْسَ إِذَا طَلَعَتْ تَزَاوَرُ عَنْ كَهْفِهِمْ ذات اليمين وإذا غربت تقرضهم ذات الشمال وهم في فجوة منه ذلك من آيات الله من يهد الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. وتحسبهم أيقاظا وهم رقود ونقلبهم ذات اليمين وذات الشمال وكلبهم باسط ذراعيه بالوصيد لو اطلعت عليهم لوليت منهم فرارا ولملئت منه رعبا وكذلك بعثناهم ليتساءلوا بينهم قال قائل منهم كم لبثتم قالوا لبثنا يوما أو بعض يوم قالوا ربكم أعلم بما لبثتم فابعثوا أحدكم بورقكم هذه إلى المدينة فلينظر أيها أزكى طعاما فليأتكم برزق منه وليتلطف ولا يشعرن بكم أحدا إنهم إن يظهروا عليكم يرجموكم أو يعيدوكم في ملتهم ولن تفلحوا إذن أبدا ولن تفلحوا إذن أبدا. All right, I'm going to stop here today. اللهم ارحمنا بالقرآن واجعله لنا إماما ونورا وهدى ورحمة اللهم ذكرنا منه ما نسينا وعلمنا منه ما جهلنا وارزقنا تلاوته آناء الليل وأطراف النهار واجعله لنا حجة يا رب العالمين. اللهم استودعك ما علمتني فردده إلي وقت حاجتي إليه فلا تنسينيه يا رب العالمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. ربنا انفعنا بما علمتنا ربي علمنا الذي ينفعنا ربي فقهنا وفقه أهلنا وقرابات لنا في ديننا مع أهل القتر أنثى وذكر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلى الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. الحمد لله.